Florian Grummes is back here once again today to talk about gold, silver, and Bitcoin, all on this week's episode of Metal Money. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira. Florian Grummes, welcome back to Metal Money. How are you doing?
Hi, Patrick. Thanks. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me again.
Thanks for coming back, and I'm glad you're doing well. Florian, looking back to June of 2020, we saw gold move roughly from 1760 to hitting an all-time high of almost 2070 per ounce. And since then, gold has pretty much lost all of its gains from 2020 and currently sits right back where it was at about 1750, 1760 or so. Are we seeing gold and perhaps even silver as being oversold?
Yes, I think so. I think in the bigger picture. So if you look at a weekly chart, you can definitely make the argument that gold and especially gold, and to a certain extent silver, have become oversold now after that, nearly 8 months of correction. What you rightly pointed out, we're basically back at last year June, early July levels. But you also need to add that back then gold had already a rally of 1.5 years going, right? So the rally that ended in August last year started 2 years before in August 2018 at 1160. So gold had a rally of $900 and then started the correction. And here we are now, 8 months later, a healthy, normal, and to be expected correction and pullback. Yes, in the end, it went a little bit lower than I personally had expected. But overall, I see no reason to change my macro or big picture assessment. So I think they're oversold in the mid to longer term time frame, and therefore a contrarian opportunity again.
And you mentioned your silver weekly chart book. And in that, you mentioned or noted a change, a divergence between gold and silver back in November of 2020. In that change, you stated silver is clearly showing strength over gold. What led you to draw that conclusion?
Well, interestingly, silver has been holding up better than gold, especially since the beginning of this year. So when gold clearly made new lows, silver never went below its November low. So that was one of the main reasons while gold is or has been in a clear larger pullback. Silver basically is going sideways, somewhere between $21, $22 on the downside, and maybe around $28 to $30 on the upside. And that's the main takeaway. In the short term, I have to admit that the gold-silver ratio has been shifting a little bit and showed basically that gold has been able to outperform silver very recently a little bit. But overall, I think the big interest in media, in silver, the media is full of articles about the silver squeeze, lots of people starting to talk about it. There's much more attention now to the little brother silver than I'm used to over the last 20 years. So I think silver looks very good and very promising. And I think it's becoming more and more clear that inflation is coming or is already here and will intensify. And that's basically the best world for silver. So I think since basically last November, you can make the argument that silver has been holding up better than gold.
Okay, we'll touch on that Wall Street silver in a bit. Now, even with silver leading gold and gold pulling back somewhat, are the two metals, in your opinion, starting to form a base again?
Yes, I think that's exactly what's going on right now. So, of course, first of all, you need to look at gold as it is the much bigger market, and usually in the first stage of a new uptrend in the sector, gold is leading everything else higher. But we've seen in gold a nice double low around the 1676, 1678. 2 times in March. So I think the first one was in early March, and then the second test of that price level was end of March. So that's a good, nice double low in gold. And since then, we have seen a nice rally. Gold was able to rally about $80 already. Yes, it came back the last 2-3 days, but still holding up well. And I think that gold should be now on the way, yeah, probably back to the 200-day moving average, which is currently around the 1857 level. So if you remember, the 1850 zone has been a good support. And once it broke, then gold started this sell-off in February. And I guess we're now on the way back to that level. However, this will take some time. I don't think there's going to be a sharp V-shaped kind of bounce immediately within a few days or weeks. Probably will take some time, and therefore you can also make the case that this is a bottom building process. And maybe this will take a few more months actually until maybe the summer, until gold is really ready then to get some momentum going again. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some back and forth overall moving higher, but still not that kind of like nice, clearly trending kind of environment. So I think, again, like always, or so often, you want to be patient. I think it's still a good time to buy physically. I think gold around 1740, 1750 is still a good price to pay. It's a good, especially with if you look towards the next 2-3 years. I'm very sure we're going to see much higher prices at some point. But right now, the whole world is focusing on Bitcoin. And I think that's where the momentum is happening, and that's where the money primarily goes. But I can already tell you that once, and this might still take at least a few months, maybe until end of the year, but once Bitcoin reaches a top, an important intermediate top, this money will go into gold. And that kind of flow of investments into the precious metal sector then can easily push gold back above 2,000, 2,500, maybe even to $3,000, because lots of people made a lot of money in the crypto sector already. And if Bitcoin goes to maybe 100K or maybe even 200K over the next few months and then tops out, those people will not put their money back into the fiat system. So they will go into gold and silver. And that will be the time when precious metals then really, I think, start the next big wave up.
Okay, and you touched on the subreddit Wall Street Silver Group has been buying up physical silver. And from a trader's perspective, though, how powerful is the ETF market, or let's say the paper silver market, over the physical market? And is there any possibility for physical to break the paper silver stronghold?
Well, this is the ongoing discussion for so many years already in the precious metals sector, right? It's always this back and forth between the paper, gold, and silver markets, and then on the other hand, the physical markets. And now we have seen such an extended down move in, especially in gold, that, for example, this morning I read the news that the physical purchases in India, the demand in India is moving, or it jumped really higher to, I think, a 2-year high in physical demand in India. That's what you're seeing when the paper market has run too far to the downside. So now the physical market basically forces a floor in a price floor, and that's what's actually happening right now. And it can take a little bit. We talked already about a bottoming building process here, but that's exactly what you want to see.
Florian, you said in a prior interview that Bitcoin and silver are the dream team for the crack up boom. So, two things. First, will we still see that crack up boom? And second, are silver and Bitcoin still the dream team to hold?
I think so. I mean, I touched upon this already a little bit. If from the past we notice, if these crazy bull runs in Bitcoin achieve a top, the pullback will be painful. So from a top, Bitcoin can easily retrace 50 to 80%. That's then what would be called a crypto winter. I'm not sure if it's happening like it did in the past. We are certainly in this kind of end game scenario where everything just could also move higher and higher, and you just have crazy volatility in the market. But I certainly would try to time a little bit and move in between those two asset classes. And So if I see a massive top in Bitcoin, I certainly would sell some of my Bitcoins and move them into silver and gold, and primarily silver, because silver also, this is something we know from the past without any doubt. Silver is super sensitive to inflationary environments, and therefore it will outperform most other commodities. And technically, we also, I think, touched upon that the last time. It needs to break the $30 level. This still can take some more time. Coincides again with the scenario of a bottom building period, maybe towards the summer or latest by end of the year. But once it breaks those $30, we will quickly see $50. And then it's just a question of how many more attempts it will need to break through that $50 level. And so, and Bitcoin again has been the fastest horse of over the last 10 years, trading now above $60,000. It looks like this consolidation over the last few weeks is about to end, and we're going to see the next advance. So you have two asset classes uncorrelated with each other, that will protect you and that will perform and outperform everything else in this cracker boom. And you asked about the cracker boom. I think there is no doubt that we are in this. Remember, the cracker boom basically says central banks have to extend and expand their balance sheets and the amount of credit in the system constantly. Imagine if they would stop doing that now, we would have civil war tomorrow morning, if not right now in 2 hours, because everything would break down. So they're going to continue no matter what. And at the same time, more and more people wake up to the fact that everything becomes more expensive. Slowly but surely, you see this now in the grocery stores also happening. Prices are moving higher. And so that then decreases the confidence in the system, and people start to look for alternatives. And obviously, from the past, from the history of mankind, we know that precious metals have always been there. So the more people will look into precious metals, and the more people will look into Bitcoin, because it's such a massive rally. The more this cracker boom is happening. At the same time, stock market is going up too, but the real economy is not doing well. So this kind of illusion, what basically describes or is described by the cracker boom, I believe is happening. Most people have a hard time, but if you invest and if you have money, it's never been easier to make more money out of money. So that's basically what the cracker boom says. And in the end, we don't really know how it is going to end. In the best case, we will end up probably with a crazy chaos and maybe a breakdown. In the worst case, and that's what's already on the horizon more and more clearly, we will end up in dictatorships everywhere and massive regulation by governments.
That was a pretty colorful painting that you just described for us. Florian Grummes, we thank you for the time that you've shared with us, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Thank you, Patrick.
There you go, precious metals and Bitcoin looking more and more as the space to be in. As always, please leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and remember to keep it liquid, keep it real, and I'll see you on the next episode of Metal Money.